Let's make a frog today. So we're going to need a couple of different colors of construction paper, or if you don't have all these colors, you can just take a white piece of paper and color it. No big deal. But I'm going to use black for the mouth, red for the tongue, and then white and green for the eyes. I'm going to use some tissue paper. I have a variety of greens, but whatever you have will work. Paper plate, black marker or crayon, and then Mod Podge. And if you don't have Mod Podge, you can just mix a little bit of school glue with water, and it's about the ratio of 1 to 1/3, or 1 to 3. So for every 3 parts of glue, 1 part water. So if you had a cup of glue, it would be 1/3 cup water. And then just mix that and use that. And then I've got a sponge brush, but if you don't have a sponge brush, you could take an old brush and cut a piece of it and then use your fingers to pinch it, or you could put a clothespin on it and use that as kind of your paint brush. So the first thing we're going to do is we need some tissue paper, and this, once again, is either ripping or cutting activity. So if your student is just starting to work on scissor stuff, or they would like to practice some scissor stuff, you can give them the tissue paper and let them go for it, because it does not matter the shape or really the size. They can just cut away. Or if your student is not ready for scissors yet, you can practice tearing. And once again, you can either initiate that tear with a tiny rip, or you can leave it as is and help them to work on that twisting motion versus kind of the pull apart motion that a lot of kids start with when they're trying to rip paper. And then if you want an added challenge, you can kind of fold the paper over on itself to make it a bit thicker, and then have them try to rip that. So a lot of different ways to do it. I'm going to rip up and cut up some more green paper. Now, while I said that the size does not matter, it really doesn't, but you want your child to be practicing these skills, so you don't want them to just kind of tear the paper and say, yep, I'm done, I've got a big piece. Have them try and work on that spatial awareness of saying, let's make our pieces this size, or let's make our pieces this size. And have them continue to practice the skill so that they don't have big pieces like this. Have them continue working on tearing, cutting, etc. to get the skill, as well as smaller pieces of paper. Okay, so now that I have all my paper, I am ready to put down a coat of my Mod Podge. So I'm going to just take a little bit, and again, working on the concept of what a little is versus a lot is something that is not intuitive. And then, and if need be, again, you can always give that visual cue. So you can say, let's put glue right here, and have them paint inside the circle first. And then they're just going to push on the pieces of paper however they want. But again, working on that idea of completeness, so not leaving huge gaps and being able to identify and see, something doesn't look right, something is missing, what can I do to fix that? Okay, just a couple more. So like I said, the idea of completeness is something to work on for these sorts of projects, as well as when you're coloring or writing, to kind of, again, notice those differences between something and something else. And so you can make a game out of it. Say, oh, look, I found a white spot. I got it. Now you find a white spot. And then they do it, and back and forth, so that it's not a chore, but a game. Okay, the next part, you might need to help your child because it's a little bit trickier than it seems. So you can leave your frog like this, it's totally fine, but as you can see, there's kind of some edges and paper coming up. And so in order to ensure that it's all stuck down, I would do another coat on top of the Mod Podge / glue water mixture. So, and as I said, this is a little bit trickier than the initial painting of glue that they were doing, because you have to know what direction. So you might have to help your student know what direction to go in and then to move on, and let that one kind of dry a little bit before messing with it again. Okay, so now my frog has a coating on the top, which will help the paper stay. So now let's work on his eyes. And I know a lot of my younger students are not quite ready to make circles or to cut out circles. And so you might need to help them with this. But I would just draw some large circles, and if your child is ready to work on circle cutting, of course, have them attempt it. But don't take on a project that's going to frustrate you and your child to the point where it's not worth it anymore. So if you want, you can help your child remember to hold with the helper hand and to squeeze with their dominant hand. And you can help them with this rotating part. You can take their hand and kind of help them and just let them do the squeezing part. And at this point, eyes don't have to be completely round. We're just working on the skill behind it. As I mentioned, you can help them by rotating the paper with this hand. And what I've felt or seen is the easiest way to do that, to facilitate cutting, is to sit behind your child. So that way you kind of have the same angle that they have while they're cutting. Okay, so then we need some smaller circles for the insides of the eyes. So with this, you can practice folding, so taking a piece of paper in two hands, bringing one side to the other, and then maybe you help them do that part, and then you have them pinch and squeeze and talk about how this is a crease. We're making a crease. Because a lot of times students will try to pinch over here. So getting the idea that we pinch on this side to make a crease is a good lesson to work on. And then you can have them draw the circle, or you can draw the circle. And again, just working on cutting skills, or have yourself cut out the circle to save a little bit of energy for other parts of the project. So now we can glue those circles onto the green circles. And we talk about how much glue to use. We're making a circle shape, so we need a circle amount of glue. But the white part doesn't go all the way to the edge, so we don't need glue all around the green, just in the middle. Now we can do the pupils. So you can either take a marker or a crayon and give them a fairly large pupil to work on, because we're going to work on staying inside the lines. So This is good for stabilizing the paper. It's kind of small, so they might need help with it. And then using either just their fingers, or since it's a little bit big, maybe a little bit of wrist movement. But talking about inside the lines versus outside the lines. And you could do the first pupil and then have your student work on the second pupil so that they have a model of what it looks like to stay inside the lines. Now to his mouth. So you can use whatever you want to draw on the black as long as you can see it. And you can kind of see pencil, but just for viewing purposes, I'll make it a bit bigger and with a white crayon. So, and this is a pretty big arch. So if your student is starting to work on, they've kind of already mastered cutting on a line, this is the direction that we would go next, is to work on arches, especially large ones. So that gives them plenty of time to turn the paper as they're cutting. And then this could also give them a chance to practice going a little bit beyond the line so that they can turn the paper and the scissors and not cut off the corners. Now we'll make his tongue. And this will be great for those who are still working on cutting on the lines or for practicing cutting on the lines. So we're just going to make a long rectangular tongue. And you can make it as thick as you want, because the thicker it is, the easier it will be for your student or child to hold the paper. Okay, so let's glue these guys on. And remember, with gluing, great opportunity to work on that idea of not pushing down super hard, outlining the shape, and putting a little in the middle. And there is our frog.